Hi, in this lesson, we'll look at how we can use state to modify images in our programs. We've seen that we can use mathematical equations inside the setState function to make changes to variables. In this example, we're using this technique to increase the variable called count. In a similar way, we can use this method to modify and change images in our programs. To do this, we can use state to store things like the size and rotation of an image. This allows the image to change while the program is running. Here, the image starts at a rotation of 0 degrees and a size of 200. After setting up our state, we can then use the setState function to change these values. In this example, we're using the function to change the variable called size and shrink an image. Every time this function runs, we're subtracting 5 from the image's size. It's a really simple change, but when you run the function multiple times, it will feel like the image is shrinking right in front of you. For this to work, we have to use those state variables inside the image's style. If the style doesn't use the state, nothing will happen when you run the setState function. The picture would stay the same. So this connection is key. We can also add a button with an onPress function to trigger the change. When we write onPress equals this.makeSmaller, we're telling the app, every time someone taps this button, run this function. And since that function updates the state, the image updates too. So how else can we modify and change our images? React Native gives us a really powerful tool called the transform property. This property allows us to rotate an image, scale it bigger or smaller, move it around on the screen with a translation, or even give it a skewed or tilted effect. The important part is making sure that this transform property is within the image's styling. Let's take a closer look at the different transformations we can use. Translating an image basically just means moving it from one place to another. When we use translate X, we're moving the image left or right, and translate Y moves it up or down. Changing these values in state lets the image slide around the screen. Scaling is the process of stretching or shrinking an image to change its size. Scale affects both width and height, while scale X stretches or shrinks horizontally, and scale Y stretches or shrinks vertically. Using scale is important when you want to zoom in or zoom out on your apps. Rotate does exactly what it sounds like. It turns the image. We use degrees, like 45 degrees, to set how much the picture turns. By default, the rotation happens clockwise, around the center of the image. Skewing gives the image a tilted look. It kind of pulls the corners so the picture looks slanted. It's not used as often, but it's fun to play with and can make cool visual effects. You can skew horizontally or vertically. Let's review abstraction. Let's say we have an app that applies a warm filter to an image. At the highest level, users only see the interface. They tap the button labeled Warm Filter, and the photo instantly changes. They have no idea what's happening behind the scenes, and honestly, they don't need to in order to use the app. At the mid-level, we're looking at the code that actually runs when the user presses that button. When the button is pressed, the app runs an algorithm behind the scenes. The function listed here changes the tint color. This level of abstraction is where the programmer does most of their work. And at the lowest level, the device is working with raw data. Every pixel in the image is stored as numbers or RGB values. When we apply a filter, such as brightness or color, the computer calculates new values for each pixel based on the algorithm. It sounds complicated, but it's what makes all the visual effects possible. All right, now it's your turn to explore these concepts and build some programs.